Oh, I know who this is. Yeah. There you go. And you know what? I don't think we'll get flagged for that for copyright because we are recording right now.
Are we really?
Yes, we are.
How'd you know?
Because he gave us the signal and you were too busy looking at your phone.
Well, I was looking at the phone to share things with you, you know. I'm looking out for you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome to Once Upon a Tome, episode 4.
Yeah.
Part 2 of 2.
That wasn't my intro, though. We usually intro it after an intro. You failed.
Hey.
I told you I had a good intro.
Well, you were too busy talking about anime and manga, so
yeah,
that was the cold open.
Oh.
It's still up for If
grabs, you are
man.
listening out there, I am not an anime or manga fan, but
it's nothing to be ashamed of. Anime is cool, man.
Bo's a fan. His girlfriend's a fan, so I found a link of something that is manga related. So I thought I'd share it with him.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Do you want to hear my open?
I do.
So the last few weeks, you know, like the hallway to my condo.
Yeah.
So the last couple weeks, I've gone out of the elevator and it just smelled like strawberry cream.
Oh, nice.
I'm just like, did somebody use like a strawberry cream detergent? Never heard of it. Maybe it's a new thing. Whatever.
You were really wanting to try it, weren't you?
Yeah, a little bit. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally realized where it's coming from.
It's coming from your apartment.
Close. No, I looked down the hall. There's like a little outlet, and someone had a little plug-in. So the plug-in must be strawberry scented.
That was your open, huh?
That's my open, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, because it's like the smell, like, you know, in high school, maybe you didn't have it in high school, but you know when you'd go through the cafeteria line, you have like all the ice cream options.
Yeah.
You know the strawberry cream like popsicle things.
That was your thing, wasn't it?
That was my thing. Yeah.
Nice.
It smelled like that.
You know, sometimes I can still recognize the smell of my kindergarten teacher's classroom. It smells like chocolate and graham crackers, and brown paper towels.
Brown paper towels. Were they wet ones? Like
no, just brown paper towels.
I didn't realize brown paper towels had a scent.
They do. They smell like cardboard.
Makes sense. They are kind of like cardboard. Very thin cardboard.
They don't do nothing for you either. They don't help at all.
Well, especially in our school, the kids spill something. They go get some paper towels, and then they have to get a bunch of them. It doesn't do anything.
Yep.
So by the end of the day, they basically have to use like an entire roll of paper towels.
Yeah, it's kind of. Yeah. We need better paper towels in our public schools. I bet you the private schools have nice ones.
Yeah. I think they have Brawny.
Braun?
Yeah, whatever the
Bounty?
Bounty.
You're a great value kind of guy, aren't you?
Yes.
I don't know what they have at Whole Foods, but it's definitely not Bounty.
Mm. No, I think the Whole Foods brand is like the 7th generation, whatever it's called.
Wow. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hold on. My family's doing this every year. They do this thing called a cocktail party.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a theme. And this year, the theme we just discussed it was books.
Oh.
Yeah. So of course, like that was what I voted for, and I guess
Yeah.
everyone followed suit. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I have to make a drink based off of some novel, and it's got to be themed and all that.
Yeah.
Should be pretty fun. I don't know what I'd do yet.
Yeah, that reminds me. I came across. I was reading a Federalist article, and they're like writing about a book of this famous mixologist who worked at like the Ritz-Carlton in Paris back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
And they found all his recipes. So they put them together in a book. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm betting $10. My little brother does either Game of Thrones, and if it's not Game of Thrones, he's gonna do Great Gatsby. Someone is going to do Gatsby. Like, you can't not do
with
that.
With a literature-themed cocktail party, you kind of have to.
I would allow it. It's the one cliche I'd allow. I can just hear people typing on the keys, hitting us on the socials. Yeah. What is my beef with Great Gatsby? That's a fair question. Yeah. Its name is Baz Luhrmann and Tobey Maguire.
What if your brother came back and was like, you know what, I'm going to do a This Side of Paradise theme?
I'd allow that too. I would much but he's one of those people who he doesn't think Gatsby has any other good works.
Really?
Yeah, like he thinks he's a one-hit wonder. So, to each their own. But we've had that discussion before on our last episode of the top 10 favorite books of all time. Our top 10 through 6. Do we want to do a quick recap on that?
Let's do a recap, yeah.
All right.
So, my 10 through 6 were... Number 10 was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll. Number 9, This Side of Paradise by Fitzgerald. Number 8. Sorry, you know what?
You're number 9.
Somehow, so I'm looking at the outline I print out, and somehow the numbers got messed up. They're all like one more. So 10, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. 9, This Side of Paradise. 8, The Trial by Kafka. 7, Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And number 6, Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor.
It's a pretty solid list.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. The only ones I really haven't read are the Narnia ones and This Side of Paradise, but and I guess The Trial. Dang. I have to start The Trial at some point.
You will.
My first picks are as follows. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Number 9, Stoner by John Williams.
Not a drug book.
Not a drug book. It's about a professor. I thought I had it down memorized. I don't. Nope, that's the one. Dude, nope.
What is this, amateur hour?
Hey.
I guess what kind of is. We're DIY podcasters.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a compliment, pal. Oh, yeah. All right, number 8, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Number 7, Jesus' Son by Dennis Johnson. Not about Jesus, it's about heroin. And number 6, the great To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. Top 5 favorite writers of all time. Which is pretty weird that she didn't crack the top 5 books, but there's a reason. And we'll get there. But anyway, I hope everyone's doing well, if you're listening.
Yeah, this is our second episode in our new digs. Our studio in an undisclosed location in an undisclosed city.
In an undisclosed state, then in the heart of America, as you can tell, in the heart of the world.
In the heart of the
universe?
Boom.
Dang. Let's get deep.
Yeah, so we do have an Instagram account.
Yes, we do.
And so both our Twitter account and Instagram account has the handle Once Upon a Tome 22.
Yeah.
So be sure to like us, follow us, review us, subscribe.
Brett has the control of the tweets, and I have control of the Insta. So be prepared of which one you're going to hit us up at.
Also, can they write us in, Bo?
Oh, yes, please do. Write us in at onceUponATome22@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we still don't have any mail, so you know what? For the first person, we're gonna step it up. Not only will we send you a handwritten thank you note, we'll send you
a signed baseball card.
Yes.
That I found in my basement.
Be a random person, random player.
It's a lot of the late 80s, early 90s stuff, and there's some good Nolan Ryan ones. Mm. You're not getting any of those, so don't ask.
Not even like the triplicates?
No. Not a single Nolan Ryan.
So if you have 4 of the same Nolan Ryan card.
I will give away any Ryan Sandberg one I have. I don't want that one. No disrespect for the Sandman himself.
You just hate the Cubs?
Sorry, Northsiders. But your team is my rival. Not crosstown rival. Even though I do have ties to the Southies. Because my AL team is the Chicago White Sox. But our team are dead rivals. But if you're still listening to the show, I mean, hey, kudos to you. I still hate your baseball team.
We welcome people from all walks of life.
Except
all
Cubs
locations.
fans. What?
You don't want Cubs fans?
I'm joking.
No. I think at this point we can take anything. We'll take anything.
No, I actually really dig the Cubs culture, I guess.
Yeah, they're the lovable losers.
Are they really that lovable, though?
They're loyal.
They bullied a man out of the stadium for catching a fly ball and then blamed half of their curse on them.
Yeah, then later,
my Lord.
and then later, like 10 years later, Moises Alou in an elevator admitted he was never going to catch that ball.
Yeah. But he won't say that in public because he doesn't want to take the blame. The Cubs were losing that game. That inning was terrible in general.
You know what's
Heck yeah.
You know what's amazing to me?
Blues Brothers is amazing. What?
So Steve Bartman, didn't move. He's still in Chicago. I think working the same job.
I mean, yeah, it's his hometown. Do you think he's a White Sox fan now?
Oh, that's a tough one. Depends if he grew up a Cubs fan.
Poor guy.
I bet he's still a Cubs fan.
I wouldn't be. Oh, I wouldn't be at all.
Yeah.
If I was found wearing stripes, the blue stripes,
Yeah.
My family would disown me. No question. I walked in one time when I was growing up. Quick story, and then we'll get to the list. When I was growing up, my grandpa, my hero, idol, I walk in. I had a Cleveland Indians hat on because I really liked the movie Major League.
Mm-hmm.
And, I dug the Indians for a while. I think they're a cool club. I like the Guardian name. I think they needed to switch the logo, though. Anyway, I walk in with a Cleveland hat on. He goes, "Boy, you better take that thing off." I was like, "Oh, yes, sir."
Yeah.
So I took it off, set it on the table, and then I went to go do something real quick, and then I came back, and it was gone.
Did you find it later in the fireplace?
I still haven't found it. I've been scavenging that dude's house.
Yeah.
He straight up took my hat. Anyway, great man.
Yeah.
R.I.P. So,
should we crack open our Topo Chicos?
The unofficial sponsor of our podcast.
The unofficial sponsor.
I'm gonna warn you.
You know what I'm really looking forward to?
What's up?
The day when I can say they're the official sponsor.
If that'll happen. We both need to follow them on the socials.
Yeah, I need to tweet at them.
I need to Insta at them. Is that how you say it?
Insta at... That sounds awkward, but it also sounds awkward to say Insta them. So.
Hey.
It didn't explode on you.
Take that.
And you did it the first try. Guys, if you are listening to this, tweet at Bo or send him an Instagram.
Don't tweet at me. I don't have the Twitter.
Well,
send me a
if you tweet at me, I'll forward it to him. Just congratulate him on being able to open a bottle.
Yeah, thank you.
He's a bottle opener noob.
Mine is I have a different one at home, and it's not complicated.
Are you trying to say this bottle opener is complicated? It's literally an old railroad tie.
That's the definition of complicated. Yeah, see? Point proven. Let's get... Oh, wait, no. Let's not get to the list yet. We're going to give you a quick update on the recognitions.
Yes.
My Lord. Y'all want to read something good.
Yeah, so I'm up to page 297. I imagine you're a little bit further than that, right?
Let me check it out. I think I'm at 3. Oh, I'm at 297.
Whoa. Nice.
Yeah. I unfortunately have a little...
oh, no.
Crack on the crease. So my whole thing is like this now. And I think it's just because...
Don't blame the thickness of it.
No, it's
You're
definitely
opening
not
up
the
way too
thickness.
wide.
Well, I had it down on my desk, and I just probably stretched it out too much. And I wasn't paying attention.
And you call yourself a literature aficionado.
Books are meant to be just, Have you ever seen a professor's books?
Yeah, they use that to teach out of, though.
Well, I'm teaching the world right now as we speak.
Yeah.
All the Germans that love this podcast,
yeah,
they're going to want to hear this. Can I read this to you?
Read it.
This is literally the most beautiful prose about a man walking home in the city. Over and under the ground he hurried toward the place where he lived. No fragment of time nor space anywhere was wasted. Every instant and every cubic centimeter crowded, crushing outward upon the next with the concentrated activity of a continent spending itself upon a rock island, made a world to itself where no present existed. Each minute and each cubic inch was hurled against that which would follow, measured in terms of it, dictating a future as inevitable as the past, coined upon 8 million counterfeits who moved with the plumbing weight of lead coated with the frenzied hope of quicksilver, protecting at every pass the cherished falsity of their milled edges against the threat of hardness in their neighbors as they were wrung together, fallen from the hand that they feared, but could no longer name, upon the pitiless tables stretching all about them, tumbling there, in all the desperate variety of which counterfeit is capable, from the perfect alloy recast under weight to the thundering heaviness of lead, and the thinly coated brittle terror of glass. Tell me that's not dense, boys. I mean, that's dense.
Dense, yet very beautiful.
So if you want to get yourself a copy of the Recognitions by Gaddis, I can already tell you I'm going to have to restructure 10 through 6, it seems. It's probably some of the best writing. I am spoiled, man.
So just in the last few pages, we're introduced to Mr. Pivner, because that was from his point of view.
Yeah.
He's walking home from work.
He's just a dull character. Really...
Well, we don't know yet.
Yes.
And then we also learned that Esme has a heroin problem.
We already knew that.
We did?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe now that I've started taking notes, I'm picking up on more things.
You could just highlight in the book.
No.
It's not an old edition. Like, it'd be fine.
I'm a book purist. I do not write or highlight any of my books. Gotta preserve them.
No, man, when I see something that strikes a chord with me, if it's not like a really old book or whatever, I'm highlighting the crap out of it. Because then I want to be able to like rummage through it and see it again and be
that's a fair point.
Inspired.
I can't bring myself to do it though.
That's okay. Different strokes for different folks. We're different readers. So, we ready?
Are you ready?
I was born ready, man. I woke up ready.
Yeah.
I woke up.
I was born free. However, that's Springsteen, right? Born Free?
No.
Who's that?
I don't know. That's from a...
Is that Mellencamp?
No, that's a Ford commercial.
Oh, that is it.
They hear it every Sunday. It's played during football games. No, Born in the USA is the boss.
Born in the USA.
Which isn't what people think it's about. It's a protest song. I play it every 4th of July. I have a little playlist I have every 4th of July that's like my own way of like partaking but being cool about it. Is Born in the USA by Springsteen, right? Know Your Rights by The Clash, and pretty much the entire discography of Run the Jewels and Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
It's my protest playlist.
Maybe in another episode we can talk 4th of July and our views on it.
Oh, and 4th of July by Sufjan Stevens for a good cry. Anyway, let's get this list going. Number 5 through number 1.
And I think you're going to go first this time because
yes,
I went first last time. So, you ready for it?
Well, let's start it with this quote right here. I want to say this.
Can I intro it?
Sure.
Coming in at number 5.
Wait, no. This is a quote that's not related, but I want people to listen. If you're listening.
Okay. I guess I jumped the gun.
No, we're just excited. That's fine. So, my 5 have a theme here, right? And there's probably like some stylistic similarities. There's, authors that are similar. And I want everyone to kind of key in on this, okay? This is from A. Bartlett Giamatti. Romance is about putting things aright after some tragedy has put them asunder. It is about restoration of the right relations among things, and going home is where that restoration occurs, because that is where it matters most. How do we feel about that?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Giamatti's a great writer, man. Not only he's Paul's father, but he was the commissioner of baseball for 6 months.
Probably in those 6 months, one of the best.
Well, yeah, he took away the prodigal son. Yeah. He said, Mr. Pete Rose.
Well, and what I love about him is, he was president of Yale. Mm-hmm. He was a professor of English Lit.
Yeah.
And he loved baseball, which I think, don't get me wrong, I mean, this is my personal view. Mm-hmm. I think out of all the sports, baseball lends itself to being more philosophical.
It is. I mean, you get time in between to pontificate and ruminate, not only about the game, but about life. Every freaking, football is fun. I played it, but it's a sport of pure domination. Like everything, its whole characteristics and the way that the culture is presented is about dominating. There's nothing romantic about that. And baseball is always up to chance. Fate usually lends some sort of hand, whether you're religious, spiritual, or what. Like, there's a lot of outside factors with baseball. So yeah,
I would say even beyond that, like, I would even say like sports like tennis and wrestling that are probably almost, I would say, the purest sports, because you're like literally you against another person. There's a lot of philosophy you can draw off that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Infinite Jest is literally about that. Yeah. Well, not literally about that. I don't know what it's about. Anyway, ready? Here we go.
Take 2. Number 5.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson.
What year was it published,
1970... 71?
70-something.
It was early 70s. Yeah. So I might have said this before. One of the best critiques I ever gotten on anything I ever made in film school was in my screenwriting class by a man named Dana Andrews, who was communist. I thought that was really cool. I think he was a communist. He definitely presented himself as one.
Did he wear a beret?
No, but he wore ascots almost every day. Anyway, I had this screenplay called Empty Nesters, and I wrote it about the 2016 election, and I was kind of furious. And so I mean, it's my own take of Fear and Loathing. And he told me that it reminded him how cocaine felt going down his nose and down, like trickling through his throat. And he goes, I really wanted to do cocaine again. I was like, what the heck? Cool, I'm going to take that and run with it.
You're like, I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Yeah. So, yeah. Fear and Loathing is one of the biggest influences for me in terms of like art. The birth of gonzo journalism, which I find fascinating. When I was a senior in high school, I wanted to write a paper about Hunter S. Thompson, but I was denied because he was such a... Obviously, like, his drug usage is pretty much all I would probably talk about, or they assumed I would talk about. But anyway, his prose is witty, and it's dark, and it's tragic in all places, and he ruminates philosophically quite a lot at the end. I mean, he has one of the best takes on the whole 60s and the tragedy that ensued because they thought they were onto something. And so, in the 70s, they're all left pretty nihilistic. Like, culture in general was at a terrible spot. Anyway, Thompson, in this book, he goes to Vegas to cover some motorcycle race, but his whole thing, him and his lawyer, Dr. Gonzo, are going to find the American dream. And that is a topic that I love to talk about, and how I don't think it exists, or if it does, it's constantly needing to change. So the American dream is different for everybody, so it's elusive. And I think it's something that bears, it needs to be talked about, it needs to be critiqued, because it leads down what I think is, problematic, like American exceptionalism, stuff like that. And it's all just built upon consumption. You go to Vegas, and it's the perfect embodiment of capitalist culture, and that's kind of what he's talking about is, my American dream is taking all these drugs and getting messed up, but to these people, I'm a fiend. Yeah. Anyway, here's some quotes. Our trip was different. It was a classic affirmation of everything right and true and decent in the national character. It was a gross physical salute to the fantastic possibilities of life in this country, but only for those with true grit. And we were chock full of that. It's pretty good, right?
Yep.
In a closed society where everybody's guilty, the only crime is getting caught. In a world of thieves, the only final sin is stupidity. Which reminds me of another Bob Dylan quote, and this will come up again. Bob Dylan says, if you want to be above the law, you must be honest. Pretty good, right?
Very good.
Yeah, Bob Dylan's a
I'm sure my brother would agree. He's a cop, so.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah, I did.
No, you did not. When has your brother ever come up in a conversation about being a cop?
Well, I always say he's a cop, and I'm saying I'm going to hang out with him in his house. My brother's a cop.
cool. Like, you just say, I'm going to hang out with my brother.
Right.
You just pop it in a conversation. I'm going to hang out with my brother. He's a cop. Where are you guys hanging out? The station? No, his house.
Touche.
Here we go. Here's another one. Maybe it meant something. Maybe not. In the long run. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time and the world. Whatever it meant. Pretty good?
Very good.
Yeah. You know, as much as I love Thompson, I love his writing. Fun fact, he learned how to write by copying The Great Gatsby over and over again. Did you know that?
I believe you mentioned it, man.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I still don't care for it.
But you know what you are going to care for?
What's up?
This Side of Paradise.
Probably. More than likely. It's a great title.
It is. I think it's Fitzgerald's best book.
You remember you saying?
As I mentioned last
yes,
episode.
you did. Last one. This is a long one. This is a doozy. No doubt they all got what was coming to them. All those pathetically eager acid freaks who thought they could buy peace and understanding for $3 a hit. But their loss and failure is ours too. What Leary took down with him was the central illusion of a whole lifestyle that he helped create. A generation of permanent cripples, failed seekers who never understood the essential old mystic fallacy of the acid culture. The desperate assumption that somebody, or at least some force, is tending that light at the end of the tunnel. This is the same cruel and paradoxically benevolent bullshit that has kept the Catholic Church going for so many centuries.
Boom.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Wonderful, though. And it is a funny book.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's dark. I actually didn't like the movie the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I thought it was just gross. And it took me about 6 months later of a rewatch because I was really itching to.
Yeah.
And it's now in my top 5 favorite movies of all time as well.
Really? Yeah, I watched it like 15 years ago. Don't really remember much of it, aside from I think it was kind of weird. But I have not read the book. I have it on my shelf.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So I'll read the book.
You have to.
And then I'll watch the film again.
This is one of the reasons why me and my buddy Cooper became friends in our editing class.
Oh, yeah?
I did a little... I presented a scene from that where I think he takes adrenochrome.
Mm-hmm.
I presented it with, how many shots are in it and what kind and stuff like that. And we were friends, almost inseparable for a while.
Who directed? I know it's a Criterion.
Terry Gilliam.
That's right.
It's probably his best movie, if I'm.
For those of you who are unaware who Terry Gilliam is, he did all the Monty Python stuff.
Yeah, he was a member of Monty Python.
He did the illustrations in the intro.
Yeah.
Right? The Flying Circus.
If you haven't seen it, watch The Fisher King, starring Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. It will make you cry and laugh. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. It's about King Arthur. Anyway, you ready for your number 5?
Let's do it.
Number 5 for Brett.
So my number 5 is Moby Dick by Herman Melville, written in 1851. Long time ago.
I read that book.
Yeah? What'd you think?
I mean, I read the great illustration series version of it.
So you...
When I was like...
Kind of read it. Yeah.
11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know it's about a whale.
That's what I was told.
So yeah, I mean, some background into it. So it was a commercial failure. It was like out of print in Melville's death in 1891. So like they weren't printing it. But its later reputation as a great American novel was only established later, like in the early 20s when it was revisited by scholars. And so I forget who it was, but one academic read it. He was like, "This is really good. We need to start teaching this." And so it just kind of spread out. And so, for example, like William Faulkner said he wished he would have written the book himself. D.H. Lawrence called it one of the strangest and most wonderful books in the world, and the greatest book of the sea ever written. So basically, it's an exhaustive account of 19th century whaling. So Melville, he was a sailor from 1841 to 1844 for 3 years.
Dang.
So it's accurate.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of whale blubber talk in there, right?
A lot of whale blubber talk.
Do you like all that?
It was fatty.
I mean, it's a fat book.
It's a fat book.
It's thick with 2 C's.
Do you know there's 135 chapters?
Oh my. What's the opening title? The opening sentence? They call me... Oh, no. Just call me Ishmael. It's a command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of the most famous opening lines ever. And there's a lot of theories as to why he used it. Some people think it's just, because it's told from the first person, it's just character introducing himself. Other people think that, because of the biblical imagery, Melville is using it to establish that Ishmael is kind of like an outsider. Like in the Bible, Ishmael was an outsider.
Wait, Ishmael is a character in the Bible?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He was the bastard son of Abraham.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait. And then they split off 2 different camps, right? Or is that a different story?
Yeah, I believe Ishmael is the father of Islam, I think. Because, Islam and Christianity all go back to the roots, Abraham and Sarah, I believe. So. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Considered as a prophet of Islam.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. I dig it. This is Hagar.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I love this.
So, the novel is it's a dense read. It's a slow read. Like, I would not do not read it when you're tired.
Okay.
But the last 30 pages are absolutely incredible. And I'll never forget, I was traveling back from somewhere and I was reading it, had it on the plane. And there's a guy sitting next to me who was like inebriated out of his mind. And
on a plane?
Yeah.
Nice.
I forget, maybe I was coming back from California or something, I don't know. And he was like, have you gotten to the last 3 pages yet? I'm like, yeah, no, we got a ways to go. He's like, just wait. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. This guy's drunk, doesn't really know what he's talking about. And then later in the trip I finished it, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy was right.
So funny. He's like, are you in the 30 pages?
Yeah.
Clearly I'm not, dude. Like, you can tell I'm only halfway through.
Yeah.
I think the movie adaptation,
there's been a few.
John Huston directed it.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory Peck plays Ahab. And Spielberg met Robert Shaw in that theater.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was laughing his butt off at the ending of it.
Okay.
Anyway, Robert Shaw is one of the best Bond villains from Russia with Love.
Okay.
Red Grant. Have you seen that one?
I feel like I may have seen From Russia with Love. There was a few years ago I was trying to go through all the Bonds and they're on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And then they got taken off, and then I think I got through like the first 7, 8, or 9.
From Russia with Love is arguably Connery's best movie.
Okay.
By far.
Because I've seen all the Connerys.
Goldfinger is said it is just because that's where every movie copies from now with the theme song and the zany characters and stuff like that. No, From Russia with Love is like a weirdly good espionage movie. Highly recommend.
Okay. So the basic plot of the novel is so Ishmael he's a deckhand on a whaling ship. The whaling ship is captained by a guy named Ahab, who his sole purpose is to go catch this white whale named Moby Dick, who in a previous voyage bit off his leg. So, the big question is, what does the white whale represent? There's been a lot of theories. Basically, in all the reading I've done, it's it means different things to different readers. So, so for example, Ahab could be evil and sorry, I'm reading my notes wrong. So, like, from Captain Ahab's perspective, if you were taking it from his perspective, the whale is just evil. So we're out to conquer evil. If in the book, the captain of another ship just thinks, it'd be great to kill the whale because it'd be a lot of oil. Oil is money. Mm-hmm. Because those whaling ships back in the day, they'd be out on sea for 8 months to a year at a time, and they'd catch a whale and they'd provide enough money from the blubber for 6-7 months. I think personally, and at least for me, just the white whale represents these thorns in our sides that we just cannot get over, and just we keep pursuing them just endlessly. You ever anybody of those? Just little thorns in your side you just can't get over, can't accept.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do. Every person does.
Everybody has to have that one meaning.
Yeah.
Unless you're a nihilist, and then there is no meaning.
Which is your meaning?
Oh shoot!
Boom,
even an atheist has to believe in God in order to hate him, right? Ha ha ha.
Boom. You ready for some quotes?
Yes, please.
All right.
Mess me up.
So one of the themes is madness. So,
Okay.
Ahab is a madman. And we're not mad in the sense of like angry. He does get angry, but mad in the sense of kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "For there is no folly of the beast of the earth which is not infinitely outdone by the madness of men."
Yeah. That hits. That's good.
Another one. "Human madness is oftentimes a cunning and most feline thing. When you think it fled, it may have but become transfigured into some still subtler form."
Yep, that's pretty accurate. Mm-hmm.
And then I have two more.
Okay.
So another one of the themes is kind of like, man's existence, man's place in the universe. This one says, quote, "There are certain queer times and occasions in this strange mixed affair we call life, when a man takes this whole universe for a vast practical joke, though the wit thereof he but dimly discerns, and more than suspects that the joke is at nobody's expense but his own."
Yeah. Shoot.
Got one more for you.
Okay. Wreck me, dude.
Quote, "All..." Sorry, I had to laugh for some reason. I had to compose myself. Quote, quote, "All men live enveloped in whale lines. All are born with halters round their necks. But it is only when caught in the swift, sudden turn of death that mortals realize the silent, subtle, ever-present perils of life. That is to say, to truly be present in life, you have to be aware of death."
Ah, no, dude. That's gonna wreck me. I'm gonna think about that all day.
Ring the bell for Bo's existential crisis.
Ding, ding. My existential crises are like Apollo Creed. Always hit me. I'm literally like Rocky dodging a punch.
Yeah.
You ever notice how many shots he takes?
I've only seen the first one, and I wasn't a fan, so I haven't watched any of the sequels.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rocky does not know how to dodge. That's why I say they're like Apollo
Is it
Creed.
because he's the eye of the tiger?
Yeah.
But all right, that's my number 5. Are you ready to move on to your next one? We're looking at
Oh,
images from Rocky.
gosh. What a weird scene that was. Anyway, number 4.
Number 4. And these aren't even like actual pictures from the film. This is pictures of our producer taking him off his TV.
Hey, Rocky 3 is still like one of the best Rockies.
Yeah.
Number 4 is For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. Pretty fitting the way we transitioned there, I think. So I read this one beginning stages of COVID. We were locked down and couldn't leave the house and all that kind of stuff. So this is the reason why I had so many existential crises beginning of that year. Not only because of the uncertainty of everything, but that book was messing with me. It was beautiful. I would sit outside on the porch or the patio, sit in the yard, and then I would just look up and think, I don't know, it's a pretty deep thought somewhere along the line. Started looking at things differently, and obviously because the whole book is about death and facing one's own mortality and fighting for a cause. But yeah, it was like one of the best things that I've written or I'd have ever read. And the only Hemingway I had read before this was his short stories and The Old Man and the Sea. So I'm actually quite ashamed. I had this book for a while, but I couldn't get myself to tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because of how the prose is, and it took me a while. I was pretty disciplined about this. I would only read a chapter a day for the first week, no matter how short or how big the chapter was. I was like, I'm just gonna finish one.
Did you ever read multiple a day?
Well, after the first week, there is a certain instance where they are telling the character Robert Jordan, the freedom fighters, telling him how they took over their town and the brutality of it. I think it goes on for quite a while, and I couldn't put it down at that point. It was the most brutal instance of writing I'd ever, participated with, and it was grueling because the characters are so real. I really think that this is Hemingway's best novel.
Well, what's interesting is the characters, they're so real, the prose is so good, even though it's not colorful at all. He does not use any metaphors. He does not use any similes. It's like straight to the point.
There is one. He tries and gets colorful in one instance, and it is also the most famous quote from the book, where they
move heaven and earth.
No, they feel the earth move out from under them.
Yeah,
and it's kind of a corny line. And I'll read everything that leads up to it because the whole quote is just fantastic until it gets to that point. Mm-hmm. But without it, we wouldn't have I Feel the Earth Move Under My Feet by Carole King, which is a fantastic song.
Earth move under my feet.
Yeah, you got it. For Tapestry.
Damn.
You listened to that song earlier, didn't you?
No, actually, I just remember it from last time. So
Tapestry, great album, track for track. Anyway, the prose is written in the formal use of Spanish, so it really does help if you engage with the text. You feel the separation between Robert Jordan and all the what?
Let me add a layer to that.
Okay.
So it wasn't written in Spanish, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess as a Spanish teacher I pick up on this. Like, it's written to be perceived as if it were something that were translated. It was originally written in Spanish, but it was translated literally.
Yes.
And so that's the sense I get.
Yeah, but absolutely, that's what I mean. Yeah. Is that it really causes the separation between Robert Jordan and the rest of the characters that he's fighting for. And they're fighting for the same cause here. I mean, they all believe in freedom and equality. It's just that there are subtle differences, and he drives it home that he is a stranger in a strange land. Yeah, absolutely. There is a few things that I do have a problem with. You write what you know. It's the first thing they teach you. So Hemingway, it seems he knows power, he knows death and heartbreak and hookups. But I don't know if he ever knows what true love is like. And I think, his personal life, maybe that was the case, maybe not. Maybe men are just different, from each other to the point where I will never understand. But if he does know what true love is like, then he's the meanest son of a bitch ever. But this book is one of the greatest things you will ever read, hands down. His use of him just talking about death will open your eyes, I think, a bit. So here's some quotes. I have a few of this one, actually. So here's the most famous one. Okay. For him, it was a dark passage which led to nowhere, then to nowhere, then again to nowhere, once again to nowhere, always and forever to nowhere, heavy on the elbows and the earth to nowhere, dark, never any end to nowhere, hung on all time always to unknowing nowhere, this time and again for always to nowhere, now not to be born once again always and to nowhere, now beyond all bearing, up, up, up and into nowhere, suddenly, scaldingly, holdingly, all nowhere, gone, and time absolutely still, and they were both there. Time having stopped, and he felt the earth move out and away from under them. What is that?
It's beautiful.
Right? Mm-hmm. Kind of corny at the end, though.
Kind of.
But you know what? I like some sentimentality. You will realize by the type of writers I like that they're all sentimentalists at heart. Yeah. Next one. In the moment he was passing through, men are not impressed by what has happened to other men in similar circumstances any more than a widow of one day is helped by the knowledge that other loved husbands have died, whether one has fear of it or not. One's death is difficult to accept.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Let's see. Now this is this one wrecked me because he's basically just talking about a man dying, like fighting till his last breath.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Then through the hammering of the gun, there was the whistle of the air splitting apart, and then in the red-black roar the earth rolled under his knees, and then waved him up to hit him in the face, and then dirt and bits of rock were falling all over, and Ignacio was lying on him, and the gun was lying on him, but he was not dead, because the whistle came again, and the earth rolled under him with the roar. Then it came again, and the earth lurched under his belly, and one side of the hilltop rose into the air, and then fell slowly over them where they lay.
Yeah.
That's some heavy
Yeah, because like watching a guy die.
Yeah, I mean, when I read it, like, you know, the visuals in my head, like, it was right up close.
Yeah.
Like, fighting because you want to end fascism in your country. You know, you don't know other. You know, you're just doing it because you're told to. And I mean, the character in that instance is a young kid. Ugh, frailty of life. God bless it. Anyway, that was my.
Did when we went to the Hemingway house in Key West over spring break, that magnify this for you?
Oh yeah, that was like going to the Mecca.
Yeah.
For sure, I loved every minute of that. I took some pictures of his office, and all the cats that were there. Man, there's a bed full of cats.
It'd be awesome. I mean, I'm not really a writer. I've tried at points, but like, if I were a writer, it'd be sweet to just have like a separate studio, separate house, just to go get away from it, just write in.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut apparently had one.
Yeah.
And his kids would try and get him to come out and play, and he would just be like, "I'm right." Like he would write 12 hours a day.
Oh, really?
Kind of sad, but also, you know.
Yeah, that's we went to the house, and then I think, was it later that day or the next day, we bought For Whom the Bell Tolls at Judy Blume's bookstore.
Judy Blume's bookstore. Yeah, that was the next day.
Yeah.
Also going up to the house, there was these two bros. I'm not gonna talk stereotypes or anything, but you know when I say a bro, like I'm talking about bro. Like
yeah, bro.
Like tank top every day, bro. I only work arms, bro. I've never hit leg days once, bro. Because you can't woo the ladies, bro, doing legs, man. Okay, one of those dudes. We had a perm. Never fight a man with a perm.
No.
Anyway,
you'll kill them. They're not going to be.
Exactly. Anyway, so Brett and I are minding our own dang business, and this bro, is trying to get our attention by saying something utterly stupid. And he goes, "Bro, if my child was ugly, I'd kill it."
Oh, I forgot about that.
Dude, that stuck with me because I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
What?
It's some like
he was literally just trying to get a rise out of us. I just turned and like, are you like dumb?
Punk college kid on spring break. No idea.
I don't know.
Anything.
Wish him well, I guess. I hope he grows up.
Yeah.
I don't wish ill upon anybody, but you have to be dumb.
Yeah. He was trying to get attention.
He was. What a narcissist. And I just gave him attention to all the Germans who were listening to us and the Californians, and were like, yeah, I hope you say. Email me at oncepon-a-tome22@gmail. Tell me if that wouldn't upset you too.
Yeah, give us your true reaction to that.
Yeah, I think it's gross.
Tell us what you would do if you were in line.
I think that's just toxic masculinity, which we'll get into here. That's one of the themes of my books.
I don't know if that's toxic masculinity.
That's complete toxic masculinity.
I mean, a girl could say that too. I mean...
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was a bro.
That's true.
Anyway, let's get on with it. Number 4 for Brett.
So my number 4 is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess.
Really? Yeah, that's surprising.
Written in 1962. So yeah, most people have honestly not read it. They're more familiar with the Kubrick film.
Yeah.
And so I have a quote from Burgess right here regarding that. So he actually later regretted writing the book. So he wrote,
I think I know why.
He says, quote, "We all suffer from the popular desire to make the known notorious. The book I am best known for, or only known for, is a novel I am prepared to repudiate. Written a quarter of a century ago, a jeu d'esprit knocked off for money in 3 weeks, it became known as the raw material for a film which seemed to glorify sex and violence. The film made it easy for readers of the book to misunderstand what it was about, and the misunderstanding will pursue me until I die. I should not have written the book because of this danger of misinterpretation, and the same may be said of Lawrence and Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would have... Oh, that's heavy. Well, first, the articulation is incredible.
Yeah.
I wish I could talk like that, but I sound like a moron.
Yeah, I have not read Lady Chatterley's Lover. I know there's
I own it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
have a couple D.H. Lawrence. I just never read it.
Yeah, I've read Sons and Lovers, or Sons and Daughters? Sons and Lovers, I think. But anyways, there's a new Netflix adaptation out.
Of what?
Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to read it then. Yeah. Sorry, I know this is your time to shine, but yeah.
Go ahead. This is a conversation.
Okay, well, here's a good talking point. It's supposed to be transgressive. It is one of the earliest, maybe not the earliest example. I mean, I think Henry Miller and all those guys are writing first, but Clockwork Orange is supposed to be transgressive fiction. Transgressive fiction, right, is when your main character that you're following is so despicable that you're supposed to be aware of it. There is this weird, toxic, masculine interpretation of some of these works where, it's like a Clockwork Orange, and it's mainly in the movie version.
Yeah.
It's American Psycho. Guys, you don't think you're not supposed to like Norman Bates. It's not getting the irony of Fight Club. It's thinking that Joker, that the Joker is funny, or not seeing that this is a critique on lonely men with major health issues or mental health issues. So if you go into it knowing full well that in transgressive fiction you're supposed to not progress as a person, you're supposed to go into the deepest, darkest side of humanity, then yes, you will probably be like, wow, this is an astounding work. But if you go into it thinking you're going to be the main, what's his name, Alex,
yeah,
then you're reading it for the wrong purposes.
I'll get into it in a sec, but there is a story arc that is forgotten, that gets forgotten in the Kubrick adaptation.
Yeah, and so I will also say I haven't read this book, but I have seen the Kubrick film a couple times, mainly because in film school, Kubrick is
he's a master.
He is massive prick though.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, you know what? This isn't even in my favorite 3 of his movies. I don't know where I'd rank it in terms of his filmography, but The Shining is still one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
and I think Paths of Glory, the tracking shots in those, man. Whoa! Continue.
So what I love about it is Burgess, he was a linguist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first half of it was written in Nadsat. So it's a Russian influenced Argot. Say Argot? Argo?
Ergo. Yeah, Ergo.
It spells an A.
Argo.
I'll say Argo. But basically,
Argo
it's a fictional language.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going through it, initially you have no idea what's going on, but then the more you repeat the made up words, the more you kind of have an idea what's going on.
Is it kind of like when you take away a vowel in a word, your brain still registers it?
Literally, but a lot of these words are
I'm
made
just
up.
totally off, aren't I? Okay.
So I'm gonna read you an example of that.
Oh, dang, dude.
So it says, "Then, brothers, it came." Actually, wait. This is when.
That is such a terrible.
Let me backtrack. Yeah, I know. So this is when Alex, he's a huge classical music fan. This is when he's listening to one of his favorite pieces. So it goes, "Then, brothers, it came. Oh, bliss, bliss in heaven. I lay all Nagoy to the ceiling, my Gulliver on my rookers on the pillow, glazies closed, rod open in bliss, slooshing the sluice of lovely sounds. Oh, it was gorgeousness and gorgiosity made flesh. The trombones crunched red gold under my bed. Behind my Gulliver, the trumpets, 3 wise, silver flamed. And there by the door, the timps rolling through my guts, and out again crunched like candy thunder."
Oh, my lord.
So it's like...
So what does half of those words mean? Let's pull it up on this bibliophile here.
So basically, it's just his description of all his emotions as he's listening to this music.
You know, that is quite amazing. I mean, that quote is fantastic.
You know, I'm assuming, you know, as a prose fan yourself, like, you're impressed by someone who create their own language.
Oh, and to do it seamlessly like that, maybe it's just because you read it in such a luscious tone that it's effective, but if I were to read it, I would be stumbling, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
So it's... so the novel itself, it's comprised of 3 sections of 7 chapters. So a total of 21 chapters. And he did that intentionally because 21 is the age of adulthood.
Right.
But, fun fact, the 21st was not included in the U.S. edition until 1986.
Why is that?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, basic overview is, the first section, we're introduced to Alex. He lives in a dystopian society. Him and his friends, who they're referred to as droogs, they have a taste for ultraviolence. So, they go around murdering, committing acts of violence, etc. Second part, he's arrested. The state makes him undergo like conversion therapy. So basically, gives him all these drugs, and he's exposed to so much violence that he's supposedly trained to get sick any thought of violence.
Okay.
All right. The third section is when he attempts suicide and wakes up in a hospital, but tests reveal that his violent impulses have returned. All right, and so that was where the original U.S. publishing ended. All right, and so, you know, in 1986, Burgess, he was told the U.S. audience would never go for the final chapter because the final chapter is Alex seeing his friends, that they're reformed, they all have families, they're married, and begins to question his ways. And the reason that was not included in the U.S. version until 1986
It's because we love violence?
Was because, you know, he was told the U.S. audiences would never go for it. Would never go for the fact that he would, after committing all this violence, inevitably turn around and regret it all.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because, I mean, if you read the book and you see the extent of what him and his friends did, that he's kind of irredeemable character.
You think that's mainly because our forms of, you know, when we think about justice in terms of like the justice system, we don't really go for rehabilitation. We go for, you know, retribution. So like somebody like that, somebody like his person, we don't want to actually see them get better. Like we would rather them just be put to death.
I would say that to a degree. I mean, here's what I think every person wants to see a criminal reformed, but I think at the same time we all want to see justice, and we can't imagine that someone who did something that bad, or the things that bad, could ever be right again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they should have added in the U.S. version. I mean, I think that's a really scummy thing to do, not only in terms of like artistry. You know, you're going to tell an artist that his where he wants his book to end is not good enough. Like,
well, I'd have to look into it more, but like, you know, if I were an author and a certain country did not want to publish my work in its entirety, I don't know why I would allow that.
Right. Well, it just sends the wrong message.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a total flippin' American way of dealing with it. I don't know. Maybe they just think it's too sappy.
You ready for some quotes?
Absolutely. Wreck me.
So, the two main themes for this, they kind of go hand in hand. And one's free will, and then one is the coexistence of good and evil. So all these quotes are short.
Oh, right.
I have 3 for free will and 1 for good and evil. So, free will, quote, "Is it better for a man to have chosen evil than to have good imposed upon him?"
Oh.
Because, you know, the state was trying to force good upon him.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, my.
Okay, number 2. "Goodness is something chosen. When a man cannot choose, he ceases to be a man."
Yep. Yeah, but that's just like the basic thing that, separates us from animals.
Yeah. And then number 3, does God want goodness or the choice of goodness? Is a man who chooses to be bad perhaps in some way better than a man who has the good imposed upon him?
Wee, pal. That's a good one. Now, we could stop there and have a little discussion about that, but we would have to go all the way back to Genesis.
Oh yeah.
Oh, are we ready for that?
I don't think not in this episode.
Yeah, continue.
We already went long the last one. We had a couple complaints about it, but
yeah, we did. It's fine.
The last quote says, "The important thing is moral choice. Evil has to exist along with good in order that moral choice may operate. Life is sustained by the grinding opposition of moral entities."
Paula. Like I said.
Which I would agree with. For example, we only know what good is because we know what bad is. If in a theoretical universe everything was either good or bad would not even be a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a rabbit hole we don't want to get into. That is
a very big rabbit hole. Because where my mind goes is that if you wanted to find what God was, you would have to articulate and say what exactly God isn't, and that's how you would find some sort of, deity. So you would have to go with the opposite, right? Dang. Yeah, like I said, this is a transgressive novel.
But I think he in his form, it is kind of redemptive at the end. But in the U.S. version, at least until 1986, that chapter did not exist. And I think because most people have only seen the film, they don't realize that.
Yeah.
And so they think it's exclusively about violence. And they don't see the redeeming aspects.
Yeah. I'm singing in the rain.
And now, Bo, are you going to read it at some point? Have I induced you to read it?
No, I'll read it at some point. I have a very, I wouldn't say it's a love-hate, but not necessarily an aversion to transgressive novels. I just, my stomach for it collapses. I read this one called The Girl Next Door because I read it was, it talks about it being one of the most disturbing books and has one of the greatest literary villains of all time, and I found it and I was like, oh, cool.
Is that
I'll read it for
the film's based on? It's Ben Stiller, The Girl Next Door?
No, God, no. No. I didn't like it. It was probably one of the worst books I've ever read because I didn't get what the need and the necessity for the violence and the gruesome depiction of how to treat another human being. So I'll get to it. Okay. It'll just be super heavy for me.
I mean,
it'll probably wreck me spiritually. Because it's the reason I haven't read American Psycho. I've seen American Psycho, but I know the book is far more graphic.
Yeah, I've not seen that film. I know Christian Bale's in it, right? Main character.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great nuances and subtleties in that movie that people are supposed to pick up on, but I've noticed that you have to be a intellectual viewer and engage in it in order to actually get exactly what they're trying to say. Mm-hmm. Most people just want to be entertained, and I think that's a problem. I think it's gross, and I don't want to go talk about it anymore.
You know what just popped in my head when you said that?
What?
Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Yes.
You want to hear a funny?
It's one of the best movies of all time. Yeah.
My dad is absolutely in love with Gladiator.
As he should be.
I'll go over to his house. He's playing the Gladiator soundtrack, and he'll just randomly quote, "Are you not entertained?" It is a great film, though.
So good. Fields of Elysium.
You know what's really funny?
Score is fantastic. Huh.
A lot of people hate that film. Even film critics hate it.
What?
Yeah,
I've never read anything like that. I feel like it's considered one of the best movies of the 21st century, and I feel like it's considered one of Ridley Scott's best too.
You know what's really funny? I think I first saw it when I was 13 or something. And when you're a 13-year-old boy, when you see the opening scene and them throwing the head over or shooting the head over, it's oh, this is awesome.
I remember I saw that movie when I was 7, 8.
Yeah.
My Uncle Jim let me and my brother watch it. My mom was ticked off.
Yeah.
And I hated Joaquin Phoenix for most of my life. Up until the point I saw Signs.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, he can be a different person? I think I was 9 when that movie came out. So anyway, for like a straight year and a half, I hated Joaquin Phoenix. Which goes to show he played that role pretty darn well.
Yeah, I remember I was reading, maybe I was listening to a podcast, but they were saying how like he's one of those actors who he presents himself as so weird that really nobody knows his true self except for his like inner circle.
Yeah.
And like, so as somebody who's so famous, the reason we don't know anything about him is because he puts on all these different personas.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of celebrities, we know everything about them, but
pretty effective.
With him, nobody knows anything.
He's got a weird story, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ready?
Number 3.
My number 3 pick, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut.
Nice.
One of my all-time favorite writers, and obviously, top 3 favorite book of all time. And these 3 titles are going to be pretty heavy, I think, or I'll have a lot to say about
it. I mean, I know my number 1, I have a lot to say.
Yeah. Postmodern narrative makes you question the social constructs we abide by and shows how silly it all really is, which is basically what the whole foundation of postmodernism does. It makes you laugh, and then it'll make you stare out the window sipping black coffee and have an existential crisis. It challenges the concepts of free will, the Judeo-Christian God, and your destiny. My freshman year of college, when I came back, one of the last Christmases I spent fully spent with my grandpa before he started kind of losing it, he got me this book. And he's never read it. I don't even know if he really knew it.
He thought the cover page looked pretty cool.
Yeah, he's like, this seems weird. Bo would like this. and he was 100% right. So when I got back home, or I went back to college, I was the only one there at the time, and I read it in about a day and a half.
Yeah, I mean, Vonnegut's a quick read.
Oh, absolutely. I love
yeah.
his prose.
You know what I love about Vonnegut? I love how, before you're going to get into it, but it's a very, very simple thing. He has so many breaks that it's very easy to pick up and read. Like, it's not like you have to devote,
absolutely. That's why...
It's like you have to have, like, an hour block to read him. Even if you have just, like, 10 minutes, you can read a section.
I know that's probably why some people kind of write Vonnegut off, but I think that's one of the reasons why he's one of the best novelists ever, is because he brings about all these heavy topics, these ethereal topics of life, death, free will, consciousness, these umbrella terms that we all should think about. You know, and he does it in such a way where everyone can grasp it and understand that, you know, we're not really going to Tralfamadore here, guys. Like, we're getting into some heavy stuff, but it's so zany and so just breathtaking. And it's so simple. It is so simple in the best way.
What I love about him is, like, his prose is so simple, but it's funny, and then you know what he's trying to say very, very clearly.
He doesn't waste words, and that's what I appreciate.
It's not even like he explicitly uses the words to say it. You just know as you're going through it, this is what he's communicating. Yeah,
it's kind of like the Miles Davis. It's all the words you don't say, and he doesn't have to say a whole lot. Background, this is the first time American readers, or pop culture, or I guess culture in general, I don't know, this is the first time anyone ever heard about the bombing of Dresden. Yes. And he was effing hated for it.
Same for me. The first time I read it, I was like, wait, this happened?
Yeah, we still don't really read those in history books. I had to read that, you know, doing my own research. Like most things in, you know, the American public education school system, you kind of have to go out and find it yourself. So yeah, people hated him for it. And he had to write a letter, which is one of my favorite things to read. I have it on my desk. He goes, I am very angry, or I am very real and I am very angry. And it was about, you know, these school boards saying you can't have these books in our kids. It's un-American. He's like, dude, like, I fought in World War II and I watched all of my friends die during a bombing of our own troops. So, like, you know nothing of sacrificing your rights or anything like that. It's astounding. It's an astounding work, and it all has to do with like PTSD. You know, my brother was reading it in college, and he goes, "How do I get into this?" I go, "Just roll with it. It's not that bad. You're jumping around, but like, it's easy for you to follow. None of this is technically happening. If you want to read it, and if you want to deep dive real into it, it's not happening. So I'm gonna hit you up with some quotes here, and I might go on a tangent.
Perfect.
Okay. All this happened more or less. The war parts, anyway, are pretty much true. One guy I knew really was shot in Dresden for taking a teapot that wasn't his. Another guy I knew really did threaten to have his personal enemies killed by hired gunmen after the war, and so on. I've changed all the names. So as the novel continues, it is relevant of the reality of death. And throughout this, anytime he brings up death, he goes, and so it goes. Which is where Billy Joel gets his song from. Did you know that?
Do you remember we were in, I think it was Fort Lauderdale, that really cool bookstore? The guy that signed copy of Slaughterhouse-5?
Oh my god, yeah.
I think he actually thought I was interested in buying it, and
he
like
scavenged
around for it.
He scavenged
and I was like,
back.
"Oh, I'm not actually interested in buying it. I just want to see it."
He was definitely wanting us to leave after that.
Yeah, that was a great bookstore, though.
Yeah. So, anyway, to be taken out of its shell, the true horror is that Billy Pilgrim found life meaningless simply because of the things that he saw in the war, and it desensitized and forever changed him. I asked myself about the present, how wide it was, how deep it was, how much was mine to keep. Pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here we are, Mr. Pilgrim, trapped in the amber of this moment. There is no why. Pretty good. All time is time. It does not change. It does not lend itself to warnings or explanations. It simply is. Take it moment by moment, and you will find that we are all, as I've said before, bugs in amber. Yeah? All right. There will also be an American flag no larger than a child's hand, glued to a lollipop stick and flying from the cash register. What do you think?
I mean, what's the context?
Context is, he's pretty much critiquing.
No, but he's saying like at some point in the future, or like that's what's going to happen, or like.
No, they're just talking about like the commercialism and the lack of validity in consumerism.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
that makes sense.
So, this is what I think it's a good postmodern quote here, and an absurdist quote. Shows how odd and fragile our society really is. And I will connect it with another Bob Dylan quote from It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Dying. Disillusioned words like bullets bark as human gods aim for their mark, make everything from toy guns that spark to flesh-colored Christs that glow in the dark. It's easy to see without looking too far that not much is really sacred. So, this is not to get too political, but this is, the American flag is supposed to be, you have to stand up in order to, do the Pledge of Allegiance. You have to stand up for the American flag, for these symbolic gestures. Yet every summer around 4th of July, they're sold at Walmart for like, 4 for $20 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really about freedom. It's all about profit. And that's essentially what they're all saying, that we give these symbols, which is what we use to, connect with, spiritually speaking, yet we sell them for cheap. And we make them for cheap. So there's not a really whole lot of heart going into it. It's just mainly there to consume.
I mean, there's a lot we could talk about that.
There is a lot. So, yeah, America is the wealthiest nation on earth, but its people are mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. That's when you look at advertisements, the biggest thing about them is your life sucks, but it could be better if you had Dove soap bars, or Peloton would make you look fit, and we want beautiful people to ride on our bikes, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the main.
I mean, how's she gonna make money though?
Well, that's another issue for another day. But
yeah, for all you listeners out there, we're tapping into these little conversations, and you might want us to talk a little more, but these are things that we could have entire episodes on.
Yes, exactly.
I think we can talk about this. You and I have different views on these things.
Yes, we do.
Dramatically different.
Dramatically different. I have a cramp again.
Foot cramp. Oh. Where's your dad to come in and punch you in the foot?
I need the chief.
If you didn't get that reference, go listen to episode 1. Or is it 2? I think it was 2.
Wasn't it? So bad. Yeah, I think so. So I will say, not in terms of like theory and practitioning, or I guess not in practicing, but in theory, this book, along with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, has definitely influenced my politics and my criticisms of what we call the American dream. Yeah, so I need to put that out there. Especially, Fear and Loathing when I was an angsty high schooler, like that really, really changed the way I viewed our country. It's just an illusion here on earth that one moment follows another one, like beads on a string. That once a moment is gone, it is gone forever. Everything was beautiful, and nothing hurt. I love that end.
Yeah.
God bless it. Yep, put that on my tombstone. Whew.
Boom goes dynamite.
Yeah. So there you go. My very esoteric and Jackson Pollock-esque take on Slaughterhouse-Five. It's one of the greatest reads you'll ever have.
Oh, yeah. It's super short, too. So if you've never read it, go buy it this weekend, and then you can read it in a couple days.
Yep. You can read it all day Sunday. All right. Your number 3.
So my number 3, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on, because you mentioned it.
Okay.
And we devoted an entire episode to it.
Oh.
Infinite Jest.
Yeah.
By David Foster Wallace.
All right.
Yeah. It's just one of the most impressive pieces of literature I've ever read.
Yep.
And
it's a pretty...
You could go on and on about it, but I'm not going to say anything that wasn't said. And
yep. It is engaging in the best sense possible.
Yeah.
All right. So I dig it.
Do you want me to do another one, or you want to keep alternating?
No, we'll just keep alternating.
Okay. Number 2.
My number 2 might be a cop-out to some purists out there. And to you, I have to say, frick off. Okay? Frick off. My number 2 is the entirety of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri.
Ooh.
Yeah, boy.
I finally got all 3 of those.
You do, and you have a really cool copy by W.S. Merwin.
Yeah.
That I really need. I haven't read that translation, but that's a friend of ours. That's his idol in terms of poetry. Yeah. So I'd be really interested to see what that's like. Yeah. My favorite translation that I've read thus far, because I've read this. I read it first time I was 14 years old. But I really highly recommend. Don't do it. That was a yawn? Or was that a sneeze?
It was a yawn.
Are you just telling me that because I want to hear it?
No.
Okay.
It was legitimately a yawn. Now you're going to make me sneeze, though.
Anyway.
For those of you out there listening and are wondering why Bo reacted that way, because I sneeze like an 80-year-old man.
Oh, it's so bad. It is scary. He's like, it seems like he's popping out of a window just to jump scare you. Anyway, I really highly recommend the John Ciardi translation. I think New York Review of Books, I think they distribute that. I would definitely want you to get a copy. There's also a really cool Yale lecture you can watch for free, the entire course, on YouTube, where that's the version they talk about, and you will dig into the insights completely. God bless you.
Does it come from outside?
Yeah, somebody's backing it up. So yeah, I read this when I was 14 years old. I found it because there was a video game based upon it called Dante's Inferno, and I was like, wow, I get to travel through hell. That seems pretty cool. And then I had no idea about the whole story. So as a kid, I didn't really like middle school, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, so my weekends were basically just reading and looking all over Wikipedia, and I would just follow links. So anyway, I got into this big old rabbit hole of Dante Alighieri.
Did you ever play the Wikipedia Hitler game?
No.
Apparently, there's some Wikipedia Hitler game where it's like how many clicks you can like. So basically, you start off with like a random article.
Yeah. And
then you see who can get the Hitler the quickest.
Oh, that is interesting. I don't know if I want to play that game. So the political history, Dante was pretty much forced into exile due to his politics. He was a supporter, I think, the Guelphs and the Ghibellines. Probably saying that all sorts of messed up. Anyway, Dante's side, I think they backed the Pope at one point, and then that Pope became incredibly corrupt and then betrayed, essentially, Dante and his followers, because they were like starting to critique this Pope, saying like, you can't do any of this, you can't send these people here, yada yada yada. So it was either he gets put to death like some of his friends, or he leaves. So when Dante's writing this, like, he's incredibly pissed off. So what I love about, especially Inferno, is that it's his way of getting back at what's supposed to be the beacon of spirituality and faith in God. Because at this point the Pope has more say than pretty much anybody. And
especially back in those days.
What is a more punk way of getting back at your enemies than pretty much putting them in league with Satan? Embodiment of all that is corrupt and evil. There's so many political metaphors and all that, but what I think is the most astounding is that his biggest influence is his love for a woman, Beatrice. So she's like all the way throughout, especially in if you read his book or his journal, Vita Nuova, it's basically his entire dedication to this woman. And if you want to understand Purgatorio, you need to read that before you read the Divine Comedy in general, because it gets you a sense of how devoted and in love he was with this woman.
This was a real woman.
Yes.
Okay.
So
do we know that was that her actual name?
Beatrice, yeah. Okay. The comedy, it must be remembered, is a vision of the progress of man's soul toward perfection. It's a good little quote about when you partake in this journey. Its horrendous and grotesque imagery destroyed my fragile mind when trying to wrestle early on with mortality, morality, trust and power dynamics and structures, and it really makes you question who really is evil in this world. Because when the person who's supposed to be the right hand of God is, just as fallible as man, you see how fragile everything's built upon. It opens up with, midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Man, that's a very spiritual text. Very spiritual opening, I think. Here's another one. Salvation must grow out of understanding. Total understanding can follow only from total experience, and experience must be worn by the laborious discipline of shaping one's absolute attention. I like that one.
That's very, very deep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Now you know how much my love for you burns deep in me when I forget about our emptiness and deal with shadows as with solid things. Yeah?
Yeah.
That one kind of leads into my whole next point. He's pretty much redefining how people conceptualize spiritual redemption, spiritual damnation. There's just two schools of people that say that language and storytelling changed with Shakespeare, and then there's some who say it changed with Dante.
It could be both.
It could
Dante
be, it's
was
very
like,
much both.
What, 400 years for Shakespeare?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Dante is one of the most impressive writers who's ever walked this earth. And I wrote a paper about him my freshman year of high school, and it was just astounding all that he was able to extrapolate from his life.
A lot of critics say, Dante's, or at least the Divine Comedy, is the best work of literature of all time.
Oh, I think it absolutely. I mean, it was really hard for me not to put this at number one. Like, it really was. But I had to go with my gut instinct here. And yeah, so everything changed after this. How people viewed hell in general. Like, that's why Dante's Inferno, it's the most popular one, is because people were so horrified by what he was saying. And there's some people, when you talk about hell today, there's some people who legit think that there's 9 circles of hell and all that. Anything they take about hell that they say is either from the Bible or whatever is just straight out of Dante, and I find that fascinating.
Well, you have to figure too. Back at that point in time when he wrote it, the masses overall, because it was before the printing press.
Yeah.
They were at the mercy of the Catholic Church.
Absolutely.
And they conducted all their masses in Latin, so the people really had no idea what was going on.
Uh-huh. And he was the first to change that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, heavily political. But the one thing that impresses me when I read this, and I always put this in perspective, is that this man is literally just writing down what the absence of love is, right? He loved this particular woman, so freaking much that he tried to describe exactly what his life was like without her, traveling in order just to see her once again. Yeah. Because she ended up dying, and he couldn't go back. And I think that's just flippin' beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful
all the
things.
type of love we all aspire to.
Absolutely.
Aspire to have,
as a 14, 15-year-old kid in freshman year, like, it's a heavy read. And you read somebody, it really makes you think about, what it's like really mean to truly love somebody. And whether you did or not, I don't know. But it is one of the most impressive bodies of work. I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, it's on my shelf. All 3 parts.
All 3 parts.
Yep.
You gotta get it. Get to it.
I'd like to think I'll read it at some point next year.
We could technically do that.
We could.
If you want us to do the Divine Comedy next, or at some point in time.
Not next. Next we're doing In Search of Lost Time.
Yes, well.
Maybe after that.
Yeah. Let us know if you're interested in our takes on the Divine Comedy and wanting us to do a tone version of it.
Yeah. Please email us or send us a direct message.
Hit me on the Insta.
Or tweet at us.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
Number 2.
Invitation to a Beheading by Vladimir Nabokov.
Oh, that book by Nabokov. Don't stand so.
So this is one of his earlier ones that he wrote. So it's the first half of his career. He's from Russia. He wrote them in Russian. And then he came over here to the United States and started writing in English. And even in English, his English ones, his vocabulary was incredible. He was a linguist, so.
Yeah, my lord. He understands
fun fact about this.
Yes.
So it was first published in 1936 in Russia. Mm-hmm. It was published in 1938 in France, but it was not published in the U.S. until 1952, or in the English version.
Dang.
So there was a 16-year gap from when he wrote it to when it was first.
When did he write Lolita?
That I'm not sure of.
Can you look that up real quick? Because I want to know if it has any relation to the release of Lolita. Whether he gained popularity because of it or not. How do you say Nabokov? Is it Nabokov?
I don't know. I don't speak Russian. I pronounce it Nabokov.
I think that's what Sting does too, and I think they make fun of him for it. But I also think it's tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, so Lolita was in 1955, so it was 19 years after. But to Americans and British who read Lolita, it only came out 3 years after.
So it has to do with because how popular Lolita was. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll
you'll get
wager.
to that.
I'll wager that.
Yeah. So, but Nabokov said that of all his novels, he held the greatest affection for Lolita, but it was Invitation to a Beheading that he held the greatest esteem.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
More than Pale Fire?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, continue.
Pale Fire I'm going to read next. So basically, the plot of it's very Kafkaesque. So it's very similar to The Trial, which I had, I believe, as like number 7, 8, I think. So basically, the novel's set in like a mythical totalitarian country, and it's told from the standpoint of a character named Cincinnatus, not to be confused with Cincinnati. Badoonch.
That's your dad joke for the day.
That is my dad joke. Yeah. So he has been convicted of, quote, Gnostic turpitude for being different from his fellow countrymen and sentenced to be executed at an unknown date. So he's been convicted of something he knows nothing about. He's been going to be executed at a date he doesn't know when it's going to be. So he's just like in his note, he doesn't know anything about anything. So to escape this, through his thoughts and writings, he creates an ideal world that he considers to be his true home. So as a way of, escaping from reality, he creates this ideal world, all these characters in his mind, to achieve the freedom that the temporal world has denied him.
Okay. Sounds metaphysical. I like it.
It's very metaphysical.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, a lot of scholars believe that this originated from Nabokov's knowledge of Gnosticism.
Okay. I like Gnostics.
So basically, they believe that that Cincinnatus models it, especially in relation to the Gnostic polarity of spirit and flesh. So basically, whereas Cincinnatus' true existence as spirit is thought to be barred from his physical body, all right, so basically at his death, his inner man is released.
I love it.
Can I read you some quotes?
Please do. I'm going to be wrecked by this, I can tell.
So the first quote is actually a commentary on it.
All right.
Okay, so there's I selected 2 main themes.
All right.
So 1, the freedom that imagination offers,
Mm-hmm.
and 2, alienation. So first quote. This is, I want to be clear, not from the novels, from somebody else. So Tyler Hicks, in a Swarthmore article, Swarthmore the college, he wrote, quote, imagination, and more broadly the metaphysical aspect of an individual trying to escape the monotony of everyday life, is juxtaposed with the corporal aspects of an arduous life in 20th century Russia, an intense and rapidly changing environment. As a result of this juxtaposition, the individual is able to internally reflect on their state of being, which in turn allows for a sacred acceptance of one's true eternal self. So basically, in that article he wrote, he was given an overview of literature that is very similar to Imitation to a Beheading. It came out of Russia during the time period when life was hard for people. They were doing these just daily things over and over again. And so throughout all those works, this was a theme that kind of came out of all of them.
Yeah. Dang. All right. Let's get to it.
I got 2 quotes from the actual novel.
All right.
This one's on the freedom that imagination offers. It says, quote, but then I have long since grown accustomed to the thought that what we call dreams is semi-reality, the promise of reality, a foreglimpse and a whiff of it. That is, they contain, in a very vague, diluted state, more genuine reality than our vaunted waking life, which, in its turn, is semi-sleep, an evil drowsiness into which penetrate in grotesque disguise the sounds and sights of the real world, flowing beyond the periphery of the mind, as when you hear during sleep a dreadful insidious tale because a branch is scraping on the pane, or you see yourself sinking into snow because your blanket is sliding off.
Whew, that is dense. I like it.
Yeah. And then one of the other themes, as I mentioned, was alienation. So this guy, he's arrested for being different from his peers. He's an outsider, and even in his dreams and mental state, he feels alienated. He goes, quote, I am surrounded by some sort of wretched specters, not by people. They torment me as can torment only senseless visions, bad dreams, dregs of delirium, the drivel of nightmares, and everything that passes down here for real life.
Whew. Whew.
So basically, overall, I would say, you've read The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, right?
Yes.
So whereas, granted, The Diving Bell it's a nonfiction book, but the guy used his imagination to escape real life. This is very similar, but it's darker.
I can dig it. God bless.
You ready?
Yes.
Coming in at number 1 for
My.
Mr. Bo. I will not reveal his last name for purposes of security.
Yeah. Thank you. My number 1 book of all time is On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk, just like they did Roger Maris. The asterisk is my preferred version of this text is the original scroll, where it's all one long paragraph of him just typing away on Adderall, typing away on coffee, and whatever speed he was on, and just going at it. That version, yes, changes the whole structure and themes of this novel. And I think it is far more mature this way than in the original. I read the original in high school, and I dug it. It was still one of my favorite books of all time. But after reading the original scroll, I don't think I'd ever go back to reading the published version. So with that in mind, I will also get this out of the way. The most famous quote from the book: "The only people that interest me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, desirous of everything at the same time. The ones that never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like Roman candles across the night." Everyone knows that one, because he's talking about Ginsberg and the whole Beat generation, which were his pals. But this whole book is, quote, this is the story of America. Everybody's doing what they think they're supposed to do. So, here's my ruminations. In every man's life, there comes a time where he relates to these Kerouacian characters, and then also will have to live in existential terror that he even thought he could live like this forever.
Yeah, because it's not sustainable.
No, and he proved that. I really do relate to Kerouac himself, I think. Mainly because both jock-type guys, on the outside, but sentimentalists at heart. And he was a flippin' sentimentalist. Mm-hmm. Like, his prose is just chock full of all these romantic notions of life. Looking at a star is just like this profound spiritual statement. It's not just looking at the night. I have a lot of personal ties with this novel. My buddy I mentioned earlier, Cooper, when we would hang out and do debaucherous things, we had conducted ourselves in these characters, and he wanted to be Burroughs and I was Kerouac. So we would have conversations and do these things down in KC, or hanging out, and we would pretend to be these two men. He had Burroughs down to a T, and then obviously can't be Burroughs forever.
No.
Yeah, it's a scary existence.
There's only one Burroughs. Even he couldn't be Burroughs forever.
God, no. But anyway, it's a fun little story. It's kind of stupid and quirky, but that's what we like to do. We also used to do competitions on who had the best Tom Waits impression, and since he smoked cigarettes, he was the best one. So, yes, the portrayal of masculinity in this novel can be viewed as problematic. There is no question about it. There are whole ways in order to score women. It's not good in today's, we wouldn't deem that appropriate at all. But I do think it's an accurate representation of that form of masculinity's destructiveness. And I think it's more of a socio-cultural analysis of masculinity and not a biological interpretation of masculinity. That this is just some sort of behavior that is conducted upon society that we think is okay, and we're at a time now where we're critiquing that more and more, and I don't think that's a problem to do. I think that's a good thing. I think it needs to be brought upon. My take, right? What I think I want to try and make you see and become aware of is that after this book, there are two different types of forms of masculinity here. This whole book is about post-war, like what it means to be a man in post-war America. Okay? So there are two types. The mad bums / the dharma bums / the sentimental dirtbag versus the yuppie and the toxic male / the alpha. And there are two kind of ways that people identify when they say, I'm a man. Right? There's people who think that there's nothing wrong patriarchally speaking and this behavior like boys will be boys type thing. And then there's the ones who are aware. The ones that know at some point in time, if you live it up, you have to live it down. Okay? So, what I'm talking about here is the artists. They're aware of their own mortality, and they would rather spend their energy trying to pontificate and create something meaningful. And then you have the ones who, like Andrew Tate and the Proud Boys, who just want to say everything's cool and everything's all right. And one's problematic, and one learns through the problems of it and becomes better. I'm not doing this any justice, but that's just kind of like my form of my whole, what I think the influence of this novel has had in terms of how we identify as men. Okay. Am I over your head? Or I haven't even stepped on the plate yet.
No, I don't know where you're going with it. Are you saying because this novel it conceived two conceptions of man, and inevitably your end point is
there are two different
identities. Your end point is we're somewhere in between.
Yes, we're still trying to figure out which is the true way to go. I think if a lot of men get sucked into these toxic traits pretty early on. But I do feel like if you read this novel when you need to, which is probably mid to late high school and then in college, I think it is a great learning lesson. Okay. So in the scroll, Kerouac's exploration of loss encompasses the loss of guidance, both familial and political, the loss and absence of a definitive sense and example of the male self, and the loss of a definitive image of an American nation, caught between the two archetypal American masculinity of the sports star or jock and the sensibilities of his love for philosophy and writing. He experienced firsthand the conflicting gravities exalted by the self and by society. It's a good little article I found. Specific elsewhere, locating masculinity in Jack Kerouac's On the Road by Lee Smith. That's the article. Really good. So that's just kind of like my take on it. I think it's I think it's an incredible read, and I think people would miss the true meaning of it and the theme there. Here's some quotes I'm going to stab at you. Okay. I believed in a good home, in sane and sound living, in good food, good times, work, faith, and hope. I have always believed in these things. It was with some amazement that I realized I was one of the few people in the world who really believed in these things without going around making a dull middle-class philosophy out of it. I was suddenly left with nothing in my hands but a handful of crazy stars. I really identify with that. Because I do like stability. I don't like suburban culture, but I like stability. So, here's another one. A pain stabbed my heart as it did every time I saw a girl I loved who was going the opposite direction in this too big world of ours. Don't we all, baby? And for just a moment, I had reached the point of ecstasy that I always wanted to reach, and which was the complete step across chronological time into timeless shadows, and wonderment in the bleakness of the mortal realm, in the sensation of death kicking at my heels to move on, with a phantom dogging its own heels, and myself hurrying to a plank where all the angels dove off and flew into infinity. Which reminds me of the You Can Call Me Al song by Paul Simon, where he goes, sees angels in the architecture spinning in infinity. He says, hey,
you can call me Al.
Hallelujah. Close enough.
I don't think
But that's just also a story about a guy who's having a midlife
Yeah,
crisis.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Finding spiritual. No? It's amazing.
I guess I just went on a limb and guessed the quote.
You had a 50-50 chance and you still messed it up. That's okay.
Hey, with a 50-50 shot, you have a 50-50 shot of not getting it right.
Absolutely. Last one. I woke up as the sun was reddening, and that was the one distinct time in my life, the strangest moment of all, that I didn't know who I was. I was far away from home. Let's see. There we go. Okay. I was far away from home, haunted and tired with travel, in a cheap hotel room I'd never seen, hearing the hiss of steam outside and the creak of the old wood of the hotel, and footsteps upstairs and all the sad sounds, and I looked at the cracked high ceiling and didn't know who I was for about 15 strange seconds. I wasn't scared. I was just somebody else, some stranger, and my whole life was a haunted life, the life of a ghost. I was halfway across America at the dividing line between the east of my youth and the west of my future. And maybe that's why it happened right there in that strange afternoon. But I had to get going and stop moaning, so I picked up my bag, said so long to the old hotel keeper sitting by his spittoon, and went to eat. That big quote, and I messed it up because I kind of lost track of my notes here. But I mean, that's all the whole point of all 5 of my of my favorite works. That is the overarching thing. These aren't just physical journeys, narratively speaking, but these are all spiritual journeys of how to find yourself, how to find what's right and what's true in our society that we both live in, all 3 of us live in. Mm-hmm. And this is it's a coming of age novel in a way. There's a certain point east of my youth where he's saying, like, no matter what, I can't go back to that life. And if I don't keep moving, I'm going to eat myself up. And it's not going to be good. So he has to keep going forward. And I really do identify with that, you know. Because I get wrapped up in my own head sometimes. And I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point, well, various points. But as you grow older, you know, in order to survive, you have to learn that some things that you've done in your past, you cannot do anymore.
No. And I
whether you did them because out of maturity or in lack of maturity,
there you go,
or out of ignorance or whatever reason you did them, you just know you cannot continue in that and have a fulfilled life.
Exactly. So try not to ramble on like Robert Plant.
Go ahead.
But yeah, that's why I identify with all 3 or all 5 of these novels. I'm a sentimentalist at heart and constantly wrestle with my past, and all 5 of these are a way for me to search for lost time.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Give me a high five there, pal. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
I am beyond ready.
Number 1 for Brett.
Can you guess what I'm going to pick?
Yeah, it's going to be Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged.
I freaking knew it.
The one and only.
I knew it.
For those of you listeners, I've been trying to get Bo to read this for about a year now.
That's why I knew.
And he's warming up to it very incrementally. I'm hoping.
I think it's mainly just because of the philosophy, but I feel like if you I think it's something I might have to. Yeah. Freaking Rush was super influenced.
Yep.
By,
and here's the thing. I've told Bo this before. Might expose him right here, but Bo, I think you will be okay with it.
Okay, please do.
You know, before I get into what it's all about, wouldn't you agree? We need to read. You need to read things you disagree with.
Yes, because it puts you in the same playing field as your enemies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I aren't enemies, but you know.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe after my explanation of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so to be fair, it is a tome.
Yeah.
It is a tome.
It is.
It's like, are you making fun of me right now?
No, that's a bit from Letterkenny, where someone goes, "To be fair," and another guy goes, "To be fair."
Oh, okay. So it was Rand's 4th and final novel. So basically, it was an expansion on the idea she presented in The Fountainhead, which she wrote about 15 years before. So The Fountainhead is an amazing novel.
I've seen the movie with Gary Cooper.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize there was a...
Yeah.
But basically, I think that was supposed to be her magnum opus, and it sold really well, but she felt that the public did not get the ideas that she wanted to convey as well as she wanted them to. So she took the next 15 years, and wrote a new novel. So she describes the theme of it as, quote, the role of man's mind in existence. Okay. Still with me?
I got you.
I got a lot of quotes here.
I'm on your toes.
Okay. So, the work, it criticizes any state intervention in society as it allows unproductive people to leech off the hard-earned wealth of the productive. And Rand contends that, quote, the outcome of any individual's life is purely a function of their ability, and any individual could overcome adverse circumstances given ability and intelligence. So that is the overall premise.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
I can see that it's the overall premise. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You with me so far?
I'm looking you in your eye. I'm up on your tiptoes.
So I'm gonna go over the plot,
the
main ideas some more.
Take me on this dance. Let's go.
Okay. So the basic idea of it. So the two main characters are Dagny Taggart. She's a railroad magnate, and Hank Reardon, a steel magnate, during a economic depression. You know, could have been. There's no dates in there, so it could be either during the Great Depression or whenever. So they're both magnates of these two major industries. Okay, but so due to government regulations, all these industries are crippled, and all these titans like them seem to be disappearing. Now the reason they're disappearing, let me backtrack. So as they disappear, it shows how important their ideas are to society. Okay? So like without them, with them gone, society just worsens and worsens and worsens. Conditions get worse. People get hungrier. And so basically, in a nutshell, it's the idea of the people who are employed to make an engine versus the designer of that engine. So basically, you hear a lot of times, politicians and people, think that the actual worker is the most important part of the company, while forgetting that without the person who had the mind to design that motor, that those people would not have jobs.
Yeah, that's where I would disagree.
Yeah. In what sense? If the engine had not been designed, they wouldn't have jobs.
Yeah, but that still doesn't give anyone the right to have another man work for him and then pay him the least amount for the most amount of the work.
That person designed the thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me finish.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And for the record, listeners, this is where Bo and I disagree on things.
Yes, we do.
But I will say this the ideas that she promote, it's an ideal. It's not perfect because it's very, very black and white. There's no room for any like grace or like just nuances that we just have in life.
Okay.
So that's what it's like meant to be.
All right.
So the reason these titans are disappearing is because they go on strike to show the world how much they're needed. So they go on strike, they retreat from the world goes to hell in a handbasket, and once the world completely collapses, they reappear to show their value.
Okay.
So, Ayn Rand literally created her own philosophy in this, called objectivism.
Yeah.
Right? So this next quote is one that is actually in the novel. She goes, "I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine."
That's a nice one, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so she described objectivism as, quote, the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute.
Productivity as his what?
Productive achievement as his noblest activity, and reason as his only absolute. Basically, we are meant to use our minds. It's our greatest asset in life.
Yes.
So basically, what's that saying is you need to do what interests you and what you're good at. And if you do that, to the nth degree in an ideal world, you're going to create a product or a service or something that is the best. And people will come to you for that, as opposed to you having to work for other people or being a slave to their ideas. So for example, if I'm a table maker, I'm just using this as a hypothetical example, and I make the best table out there because I'm good at that, I will make the world a better place by providing great tables, as opposed to just making a table someone else has designed on an assembly line. Therefore, I would not be using my mind as a benefit to the world, because I'd be working for somebody else.
Right. Okay.
So a lot, she gets a lot of flack for being narcissistic and selfish. She actually wrote an entire treatise called The Virtue of Selfishness.
Oh.
But she defines selfishness as doing what you're good at. I think in contemporary society, we always, selfishness has the connotation of being very narcissistic, like doing it just for me so I can reap the rewards. Whereas her definition of selfishness is doing what you are good at, because if everybody does what they're good at, society will be benefited. If that makes any sense.
No, I get you. I get what she's trying to say.
Okay, and then, so this is a quote from her in her, I believe, autobiography.
All right.
Subjectivism is rooted in an understanding of reality, not wishes or utopian ideals. So she goes, quote, "The primacy of existence, of reality, is the axiom that existence exists, i.e. that the universe exists independent of consciousness, of any consciousness. To grasp the axiom that existence exists means to grasp the fact that nature, i.e. the universe as a whole, cannot be created or annihilated, that it cannot come into or go out of existence. Whether its basic constituent elements are atoms or subatomic particles or some yet undiscovered forms of energy, it is not ruled by a consciousness or by will or by chance, but by the law of identity. Nature is metaphysically given, i.e. the nature of nature is outside the power of any volition." So what she's saying is, we live in a reality. You have to harness that reality and work within its confines.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That just makes me think of the philosophical question: does the universe exist because I am, or is the universe always there? Like, if I wasn't able to identify and say there's a star, would it even exist at all? Because is it the knowledge of knowing that creates it or not?
Well, I think you still have to operate within the confines of society.
Right. So,
whether that star exists or not, I at least can see it. There's something up there.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very, very philosophical book.
Yes.
What I love about it is, and you'll see when I get to the prose, it is very, very intentional. She's very intentional, very direct, very intense. I have one more quote. This is from AynRand.org.
Okay.
Her official website. Well, she's dead now, but there's society.
She's been dead a while.
It says, in Rand's philosophy, reality exists as an objective absolute, impervious to our desires or wishes. But our capacity for thought gives us the ability to understand reality and the choice to use this knowledge to create the new and the life-sustaining. Quote, "The power to rearrange the combinations of natural elements is the only creative power man possesses," and writes. "It is an enormous and glorious power, and it is the only meaning of the concept creative." I think you would agree with that, in the sense to be creative, you have to use things that already exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's an influence of collaboration. Yeah. All right.
Okay, are you ready for some actual quotes? From
Yeah,
the
man.
novel?
Wreck me. Wreck me.
And if you're listening and you're a little bit bored, I'm sorry. But this is my number one novel, so I have to read a lot of quotes.
Sure.
Actually, I got 4 of them, but they're all pretty long. So, as part of, living in reality, honesty is like one of the paramount things. So this is a quote in the novel. It goes, I think I sent this to you, actually. I think I texted it to you. Actually, I might G-chat at you at work.
Maybe.
It says, quote, "People think that a liar gains a victory over his victim. What I've learned is that a lie is an act of self-abdication, because one surrenders one's reality to the person to whom one lies, making that person one's master, condemning oneself from then on to faking the sort of reality that person's view requires to be faked. The man who lies to the world is the world's slave from then on. There are no white lies. There is only the blackest of destruction, and a white lie is the blackest of all."
I still think that's a good quote. I think there's a Wallace quote from Infinite Jest like that, too.
I think, even if you disagree with a novel, you can find a quote beautiful and brilliant, poignant.
Yeah.
Okay, along with that, I have 2 on absoluteness.
All right.
Quote, "The man who refuses to judge, who neither agrees nor disagrees, who declares that there are no absolutes and believe that he escapes responsibility, is the man responsible for all the blood that is now spilled in the world. Reality is an absolute, existence is an absolute, a speck of dust is an absolute, and so is a human life. Whether you live or die is an absolute. Whether you have a piece of bread or not is an absolute. Whether you eat your bread or see it vanish into a looter's stomach is an absolute."
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Only Bo would throw in a Star Wars reference.
Yes, I would.
Okay. Here's another one. Quote, "There are 2 sides to every issue. One side is right and the other is wrong, but the middle is always evil. The man who is wrong still retains some respect for truth, if only by accepting the responsibility of choice. But the man in the middle is the knave who blanks out the truth in order to pretend that no choice or values exist, who is willing to sit out the course of any battle, willing to cash in on the blood of the innocent or to crawl on his belly to the guilty, who dispenses justice by condemning both the robber and the robbed to jail, who solves conflicts by ordering the thinker and the fool to meet each other halfway. In any compromise between food and poison, it is only death that can win. In any compromise between good and evil, it is only evil that can profit. In that transfusion of blood which drains the good to feed the evil, the compromise is the transmitting rubber tube."
That's pretty dense. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I have one more.
All right.
So this one, the theme I picked out is that truth is the ideal of morality. It says, quote, "Learn to distinguish the difference between errors of knowledge and breaches of morality. An error of knowledge is not a moral flaw, provided you are willing to correct it. Only a mystic would judge human beings by the standard of an impossible automatic omniscience. But a breach of morality is the conscious choice of an action you know to be evil, or a willful evasion of knowledge, a suspension of sight and of thought. That which you do not know is not a moral charge against you, but that which you refuse to know is an account of infamy growing in your soul. Make every allowance for errors of knowledge. Do not forgive or accept any break of morality." Yeah. So what I love about Rand, really all her works have the same theme, but she's like Vonnegut in the sense that you know exactly what she is saying. Mm-hmm. She's very direct. It's essentially like a philosophy book told through a novel. I think there's in the middle there's like 60 or 70 pages that are just devoted to explaining that philosophy. So I love it because it's, so much today is so much of how society operates is not in a meritocratic way, and she is all about meritocracy. Like, you have to earn your way in life. There's no free lunch. Like, you have to work hard, and that's the way that you're gonna succeed. Now, like as I said before, it's an ideal thing. It's not perfect. Like, I don't ascribe to it at all because it doesn't allow for the nuances in society. But I would say I agree with it about between 95 and 98%.
So this is like a personal philosophy.
Yeah.
I think that's all right to have a person with like a good work ethic, you know.
Yeah.
But I think we need to take care of, you know, everything in society in general. It's like I don't want to have to work every day. You know, I don't want to have to work my life away. You know, I want to do stuff. You know, I want to go out and adventure, and I can't if I work a 9 to 5 days a week type stuff. You know, and have like so many odd breaks and days off. And,
well, I think
as a personal philosophy, I can definitely get behind that.
I don't really think though that's the point of the work for her.
Okay.
I think the point of what she is saying is, if you work hard enough at something, you'll be able to live the life you want. So
Okay.
for
yes.
example, you know, success only comes by effort. Most of the time. I mean, you can win the lottery, whatever. But it's like, you know, 1 out of every 2 billion people, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, the principle that you have to work hard to get where you want to go is what I really appreciate about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you would be wise to read it, because not only is it great prose, it'll give you greater insight into how all of us conservatives view the world.
Yeah.
Not all of us. I'm
think,
saying there's a lot of conservatives who hate the book, but you know, it'll just provide you more talking points.
I think it would be a great episode and a great
and you know what?
little challenge to do if I read Atlas Shrugged and then you had to read like Das Kapital by Karl Marx, and then we would have like a conversation about the two different philosophies.
Well, I don't know if you can do that though, because Das Kapital is not fiction.
That's true, but have you ever tried to read it?
No, I mean, I would. I mean,
it's pretty dark.
I picked up the Communist Manifesto at a thrift store a few months ago. It's on my shelf. I haven't read it, but
it's pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
Anything that has to do with like Marx in theory is like really cool.
Yeah.
But reading Marx is kind of hard. But no, it'd be interesting if I had to read one from yours and then you had to read one from mine, and then we
discuss it. Yeah.
That'd be great.
For the record, I have read On the Road.
I know you have.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like a philosophical
an inherently political book.
Yeah. Like you would have to read Howard Zinn.
Oh gosh, shoot me now.
Oh, God bless him. I love him. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I think we listened on a light note. It's been pretty heavy.
It has been.
Yeah.
But you know what? I appreciate you sharing your favorite books with me.
Yeah, me too. You know what? Next week we'll do our honorable mentions.
Yes, we will. Yeah. We're just gonna bleed this sucker dry until we finish the recognitions, baby.
Boom. And at this point, we're about a third of the way done through the recognitions. I think we'll finish March.
No, we'll finish earlier than that.
Think so?
I'll wager. Okay. I'd wager it. I'm gonna read so much during winter break.
You know what? If you're listening, send us your predictions as to when we'll finish.
Nah, just send us your top 10.
Yeah.
Let me critique those for you. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, and sorry, I cut you off.
If I rambled on too much and I didn't say anything I really meant to, or there was a lot of fat in between, you know, not a lot of meat, I apologize. Sometimes I get too excited and I ramble on and I forget where I'm going with things.
You know what, Bo? When you were talking, I feel like I was eating a steak. You had a lot of meat in there.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yep. And as we said earlier, the first one to write us gets a handwritten thank you note, and
it is not a Nolan Ryan card.
Some additional baseball card. And you know what? If our cards are in, I'll send you one of those too.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I agree.
We will. We'll talk more about these cards we're talking about, and once we get them in, we'll tweet them. Insta them.
We'll put it on the gram.
But thank you for putting up with us. I think this was a rather long episode again. We will try to be more cognizant of time, but you know, we're really passionate about lit, and hope you are too.
Yeah, we just want to share it with you.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Brett.
And I'm Bo.
You listened to Once Upon a Tone.
There you go.
Boom.
Bye.
See ya.